before light, before time, before even the whisper of a possibility. There was something we call nothing. But what if even that word, nothing, is a misunderstanding? We humans love stories that begin a first chapter, a spark, a dawn. We crave origins because they make the chaos feel contained. But the universe may not care for such simplicity. Perhaps it never began. It merely became. Imagine. No clock ticking, no trigger pulled, no divine ignition, only a quiet, eternal hum, shifting endlessly in form. The Big Bang, then, not a birth, but a breath. A change of state in something that never truly started. A wave cresting from an infinite sea. And maybe this sea has no shore, no edge, no before, only a timeless now, forever folding into itself. We call it the beginning because that's all our minds can hold. But maybe what we call the start was only a doorway. The silence trembles, the first photons awaken, and from the void, existence hums its first note. But beneath that song, the question remains, can something that always was ever truly begin? 13.8 billion years ago. That's where we like to begin. With a flash, a bang, a singularity of infinite density bursting into space and time. It sounds heroic, almost divine. The moment when nothing became everything. But as we drift closer to that first instant, the story begins to unravel. Because the truth is, there was no moment to mark, no cosmic clock to tick first. Time itself was still, asleep. Physicists call this frontier the Planck epoch, a slice of existence so brief it defies comprehension. 1/10,000,000th of a trillionth of a trillionth of a trillionth of a second. At that scale, the universe wasn't filled with galaxies or light. It was a seething ocean of quantum chaos, where gravity danced with uncertainty, and the fabric of reality rippled like a dream trying to remember itself. We've built equations that reach back to that threshold, and yet, the closer we get, the less sense they make. Relativity collapses under quantum pressure. Quantum theory dissolves under gravity's pull. The laws we trust, the ones that describe every atom, every star, cease to speak the same language, as if the universe itself has locked away the truth of its own birth. And in that silence, we're forced to ask, what does it mean to have a beginning? If the concept of before simply doesn't exist, we used to think of the Big Bang as an explosion, a burst in empty space. But there was no space to explode into. Space itself was expanding, stretching from a dimensionless seed into the infinite stage we now inhabit. It wasn't fire. It was geometry, awakening. It wasn't noise. It was order emerging from formlessness. Yet something deeper stirs. Beneath that geometry, a mystery that neither math nor poetry can contain, because even if time began there, what set the conditions for time to exist at all? If there was nothing, how could something happen? And if there was something, how could it ever be called nothing? We stand on the edge of the Planck wall, staring into the ultimate paradox. Every attempt to peek behind it only makes the veil thicker. Quantum fluctuations, tiny, restless pulses of potential, may have existed even in the void. Energy, borrowing itself from nothingness, dancing in and out of being, until one fluctuation refused to vanish. One wave that didn't cancel out. And from that imbalance, our universe. But perhaps that wave didn't begin anything at all. Maybe it was just part of an eternal ocean, forever churning, birthing, dissolving, and birthing again. In this view, the Big Bang wasn't creation. It was transformation, a new verse in an endless cosmic poem. Imagine it, universes budding from the quantum fabric, like blossoms from a timeless root, each with its own laws, its own constants, its own meaning of existence. We call ours the beginning because it's the first page we can read. But perhaps it's merely a chapter in an infinite book, one written without margins, without an author, without end. Still, there's a deeper humility in this realization, because what science gives us in knowledge, it also gifts us in mystery. We have names for the Planck time, for inflation, for expansion, but none for the silence that came before, because that silence has no before. It simply is. Even Einstein, who tried to trace time like a thread through space, reached a point where the thread vanished. At that limit, physics becomes poetry. Equations bend into questions. The cosmos itself becomes a metaphor for our ignorance, a reminder that every answer we find is born from a deeper unknowing. And yet, that unknowing is beautiful, because it means the universe isn't finished speaking. It's still unfolding, still whispering secrets into our curiosity. Every new discovery only widens the horizon of what we don't yet understand. And in that widening, we find awe. Perhaps there was no first note in the symphony. Perhaps the music has always played, and we merely arrived late enough to call it the beginning. So we stand here, at the edge of everything, looking back toward a moment that never was. Our instruments fall silent, our theories tremble, and all that remains is wonder. The greatest story ever told begins with a blank page. Before the first second, there was no before. No ticking clock, no sequence, no cause waiting for its effect, only a trembling sea of potential, nameless and measureless. And yet, from that stillness, something unimaginable happened. Not a spark, not an explosion, but a change of state. We often speak of before the bigs, bang, as if there were a hallway leading to it. But that phrase is a linguistic illusion, a human attempt to put labels on the unlabelable. If time itself was born in that moment, then asking what came before is like asking what's north of the North Pole. The map simply doesn't exist. Still, our minds can't help but wander there, to the silent region beyond all beginnings. So physicists began to imagine what that silence could be made of. Not emptiness, but possibility. Quantum theory tells us that even in a perfect vacuum, reality never truly rests. Particles flicker in and out of being, virtual, transient, alive for the briefest flashes before vanishing again. This restless sea is called the quantum foam, a microscopic storm where space and time themselves dissolve into froth. Here, dimensions blur, gravity forgets its grip, and the concept of nothing collapses under its own instability. Perhaps our universe was born from this cosmic foam, a ripple that refused to fade. one bubble expanding faster than the rest, inflating into the vast cosmos we now call home. It sounds impossible, until we realize that impossibility is built into the universe's DNA. The equations of quantum gravity hint at this story. They suggest that before space-time crystallized, the universe existed as a quantum wave function, a superposition of every possible version of itself. No distinct past, no future, just pure probability, waiting to be observed into form. But who or what did the observing? Was it consciousness, or was it the universe observing itself? A cosmic loop of awareness folding inward and outward, forever giving birth to its own existence. This is where loop quantum cosmology enters the story, a framework that replaces the singular, beginning with an endless rhythm of contraction and rebirth. According to this model, the universe didn't explode from nothing. It bounced from something. A prior cosmos collapsed under its own weight, shrinking to near zero size before rebounding into expansion. Not an origin, but a continuation. Not the first, but one in a chain of infinite echoes. It's a poetic symmetry. Death and creation intertwined, like inhale and exhale. The Big Bang, in this view, is not a birth cry, but the sound of the cosmos catching its breath. And yet, there's another possibility, one even more dizzying: eternal inflation. The idea that our entire universe is just one bubble in a limitless cosmic foam where inflation, that sudden, exponential swelling of space, never truly stops. New universes bloom endlessly, each expanding into its own reality, its own physical constants, its own rules of time and matter. We might be a single spark in a multiversal wildfire, a quiet ember floating among infinite flames. Everywhere, forever, new beginnings erupt, each one believing it is the first, each one wondering what came before. If this is true, then, before the Big Bang was simply another universe's after, a handoff between cycles, a seamless transition between one infinity and the next. And suddenly, the question shifts, not how did everything begin, but why does anything ever end? In this vast multiversal ocean, there may be no privileged moment of creation, no single dawn to point toward, only patterns repeating across eternity, each birthing new forms of matter, energy, and thought. Even our laws of physics, those sacred constants, may just be local dialects in an infinite language. But here's the quiet miracle. In all that boundless repetition, in all that cosmic redundancy, the universe still managed to produce you, a self-aware observer who can look back at the beginning and ask, why? That question alone may be the universe waking up to itself. Maybe that's what creation really means. Not the birth of space and time, but the birth of awareness within it. The Big Bang wasn't a sound, it was a realization, a flicker of self-recognition across the void. Still, we can't escape the ache of the question. If time had to begin, where did the rules that govern it come from? If matter arose from fluctuations, what allowed those fluctuations to exist? Every answer leads not to certainty, but to deeper mystery, an ever-receding horizon where knowledge turns to wonder. The physicist John Wheeler once said, "We are no longer observers of the universe. We are participants in its evolution." And perhaps that's the final revelation, that the before we seek isn't behind us, It's within us. Our curiosity, our longing to understand, is the echo of that first timeless state. We are made of the same uncertainty, the same trembling potential that once gave rise to everything. So maybe the universe didn't begin in time? Maybe time began in us. Every thought, every discovery, every moment of awe is a new birth of the cosmos. And when we ask, what came before the first second? The answer smiles back quietly. From within the question, there was no beginning to find, only an eternal shifting of form. The universe never started. It simply changed. We live inside a current we call time. It sweeps us forward, second by second, heartbeat by heartbeat. And we never stop to question the river itself. We measure it, chase it, fear it. We divide our lives into past, present, and future, as if they were coordinates on a map. But what if that map is an illusion? What if time doesn't flow, and only we do? Einstein shattered the simplicity of time forever. He showed that it isn't a ticking metronome ruling the universe, but a flexible fabric woven together with space. Space-time. In his equations, time bends and stretches depending on where you are and how fast you move. A second for one observer can last longer for another. Clocks on mountaintops tick differently than clocks at sea. Time, once thought absolute, became relative. This revelation cracked open something deeper than physics. It shook our sense of reality itself. If time can stretch, what does it mean for a moment to exist? Einstein's theory hinted at something profound, that all events, past, present, and future, already coexist within the cosmic fabric. Every birth, every death, every breath ever taken, all are stitched into space-time like frames in an eternal film reel. We experience those frames one at a time, but the universe holds them all at once. This is the block universe. A cosmos not in motion, but complete. A four-dimensional sculpture where every instant simply is. Nothing moves. Only our perception slides along the thread. We call that motion the flow of time. But in truth, it may be consciousness that moves. A spotlight drifting across the eternal landscape of existence. It's a humbling idea. If everything that will ever happen already exists, then our future is not waiting to be written. It's already inscribed. Every decision, every accident, every love and loss is etched into the timeless architecture of reality. We are travelers through a fixed infinity, believing we steer when perhaps we are only remembering what's already been. But strangely, this doesn't erase meaning. It deepens it. Because if time is an illusion, then what we call now is the universe's way of experiencing itself from within. The present isn't a fleeting instant between two voids. It's the eternal act of awareness, the one thing that never truly passes. Ancient philosophers glimpsed this truth long before physics could prove its shadow. The Buddhists spoke of impermanence and eternal recurrence. A wheel, not a line. The Hindus described Kalachakra, the wheel of time, where the universe cycles endlessly through creation and dissolution. And in those myths, time is not a tyrant. It's a rhythm. It breathes in, breathes out. A cosmic heartbeat without beginning or end. Einstein, too, felt this echo. In a letter mourning the death of a friend, he wrote, "For us believing physicists, the distinction between past, present, And future is only a stubbornly persistent illusion. He was not dismissing grief. He was recognizing that in some greater view, nothing is ever truly lost. Every moment that ever existed still exists. Every life that ever was still is, crystallized within the unchanging geometry of space-time. But if all moments coexist, why do we feel time slipping through our fingers? Why does yesterday feel gone and tomorrow out of reach? Perhaps because consciousness is not static. We are built to move, not through space, but through perception. Our minds carve motion out of stillness, just as a film projector animates still frames into a story. We are that story, believing we are moving forward when in truth, we are wandering across what already is. And yet, there's comfort in this illusion. Without it, there would be no growth, no longing, no hope. Time, even as a mirage, gives meaning to experience, because meaning itself requires contrast. The sweetness of now is born from the memory of what was, and the anticipation of what might be. Even if all of it already exists, we must live as if it doesn't, because the act of living is how the universe tastes itself. So maybe time's illusion is not a flaw, but a feature of consciousness, a veil that lets infinity know itself piece by piece, a divine trick that allows the eternal to pretend it's mortal, so that wonder can exist. When we meditate, when we fall in love, when we lose ourselves in awe, time seems to dissolve. In those rare still moments, we glimpse what lies beneath the current, timeless awareness, a quiet knowing that everything simply is. The ancients called it enlightenment. Einstein called it relativity. Both point to the same horizon, that beyond the clock and the calendar, there is only presence, no past to regret, no future to chase, just the vast, unmoving silence of being. And maybe that's eternity, not infinite years stretched into forever, but the absence of years altogether, not endless time, but timelessness itself. So if time is an illusion, then every now is forever. Every goodbye still echoes. Every heartbeat still resounds. The story never truly moves. It only unfolds within our sight. And when the illusion finally fades, we may find ourselves standing not at the end of time, but outside of it, where everything that ever was and will be exists in a single, boundless moment. Perhaps eternity isn't infinite time, but the absence of it. We often imagine nothingness as the end of the story. A blank page, a cosmic void, a silence so total that even thought cannot echo through it. But physics whispers a heresy. That emptiness is not empty at all. The vacuum, that haunting word we use for nothing, is alive. It hums beneath existence, restless and radiant, vibrating with infinite possibility. In quantum field theory, what we call space is not a stage. It's an ocean, invisible, continuous, and everywhere. Within it, every particle, every atom, every galaxy that has ever existed is a ripple, a brief wave on a vast quantum sea. And even when the waves are gone, the sea remains, the fields remain, everywhere, always, trembling with potential. According to the mathematics that rule the smallest scales of reality, every point in space is pregnant with energy, vacuum energy, the subtle hum of existence itself. It never truly rests, even when stripped of all matter, All light, all motion, the quantum fields that fill the cosmos still quiver, spawning virtual particles that blink in and out of being like fireflies of possibility. These flickers are called quantum fluctuations, and they are the universe's most mysterious heartbeat. For every instant that passes, pairs of particles and antiparticles emerge from nothing, collide, and vanish again. It's a cosmic dance at the edge of being, where the border between existence and non-existence is not a wall, but a blur. Here, nothing is an illusion, because even the void cannot stop creating. The more closely we look, the more alive it becomes. Space foams and churns with ephemeral life, its emptiness brimming with virtual symphonies. The universe, it seems, cannot resist the act of becoming. The physicist Lawrence Krauss once said, "Nothing is unstable." It's a paradox so elegant it feels like poetry. The idea that nothing cannot stay nothing. The quantum vacuum, by its very nature, must fluctuate, must generate, must evolve, and perhaps that instability, that need to move, is why anything exists at all. Our universe may have been born from one such fluctuation, a tiny hiccup in the quantum foam that refused to disappear. It inflated, stretched, and cooled, and from that trembling possibility came galaxies, stars, and us. A universe, born not from a spark, but from a sigh in the vacuum, from the hum of nothing becoming something, and still it continues. The vacuum never sleeps. Every atom in your body, every photon streaming through your eyes, is surrounded by this living emptiness, a cosmic womb that never runs dry. What we call space is the greatest generator ever conceived, the eternal engine of creation, hiding in plain sight. To grasp this is to feel the edges of human language begin to fray. We call it empty, but that word collapses under the weight of what it holds. This nothingness contains everything, every possible universe, every particle that might one day exist. The quantum vacuum is not a grave, it's a garden, an infinite reservoir of becoming, where the seeds of reality sprout and vanish without end. And maybe this is what the ancients meant when they spoke of creation from the void. The mystics called it the breath of Brahman, the endless inhale and exhale of the divine. The Taoists called it the uncarved block, formless yet fertile. The Buddhists called it shunyata, emptiness not as absence, but as boundless potential. Science, with its equations and constants, has arrived at the same doorstep, the realization that nothing is the most powerful thing there is. At the heart of quantum field theory lies a truth both humbling and holy. Even when everything vanishes, something remains. Energy, potential, the capacity to become. You can never take it away, only change its shape. Matter and energy are woven from the same fabric, forever cycling, forever rearranging, like waves returning to the sea that birthed them. The philosopher might say, nothingness is the canvas, existence is the paint. But the painting and the canvas were never separate. They are the same act, seen from two different perspectives. Look closely enough at the vacuum, and you find not stillness, but motion, not darkness, but the whisper of light, not yet born. Everywhere you look, The void pulses with invisible color. Space is singing. We just don't have the ears to hear it, and that changes everything, because it means that creation never truly needed a start. There was no divine moment of ignition, no absolute boundary between being and non-being. There was only a timeless field, forever bubbling with the possibility of form. Maybe the Big Bang wasn't a beginning. It was just the moment when one of those bubbles became self-aware. When the quantum hum found a voice and began to call itself universe. So when you stare into the night sky and imagine the cold emptiness between the stars, remember this, that darkness is not empty. It is alive with the very energy that birthed you. Every inch of space vibrates with the same potential that once flared into everything you know. Nothing, it turns out, is simply what everything looks like before it remembers itself. The void is not the absence of being. It is being in waiting. A stillness so full, it needs only the smallest tremor to become all things. Perhaps that's the true miracle, that even in the deepest silence, existence cannot help but sing, because nothingness was never dead. It was only dreaming, and from that dream, the universe awoke. The universe breathes, not in seconds or centuries, but in eons. Slow, cosmic inhalations and exhalations that span eternity. Every heartbeat of creation is a lifetime of stars. Every sigh, a silence of infinite depth. We call one breath the Big Bang. The next, the Big Crunch, together. They compose the eternal rhythm. Birth, death, rebirth. We once thought the cosmos was a singular story, a one-time event, a lonely explosion followed by a slow, inevitable fade. But perhaps we were wrong. Perhaps the universe is not a straight line from beginning to end, but a circle, unbroken, self-renewing, forever returning to itself. In cyclic cosmology, there is no final curtain. Every universe gives rise to the next, each one born from the ashes of the last. Gravity collapses the stars, the galaxies, the great webs of light, pulling them inward toward a final convergence, a compression so complete that space and time themselves dissolve into potential once more. And from that potential, the next cosmos unfurls, not creation from nothing, but transformation of everything. Imagine this endless pulse, an infinity of Big Bangs, an ocean of realities bubbling, collapsing, expanding again, each cycle leaving faint fingerprints on the next, echoes of what once was, hidden in the background radiation of existence. Perhaps the faint whisper we call the cosmic microwave background is not the sound of one birth, but the memory of countless ones before it. In some models, this cycle is mathematical, precise, elegant. The ekpyrotic universe describes two vast cosmic brains, membranes floating in higher dimensions, that collide again and again, each collision igniting a new Big Bang. Like cymbals striking in an endless cosmic symphony, their impact releases energy, space, and time anew. Creation and destruction are no longer opposites. They are lovers in eternal embrace. Even entropy, that slow march toward disorder, finds peace here. In an infinite loop, nothing is wasted. Chaos becomes order again, and order returns to chaos. Every atom, every photon, Every whisper of thought is recycled, reimagined, reborn. The universe dies not in tragedy, but in renewal. And maybe this is the deepest secret of existence, that endings are illusions told to frightened minds, that the collapse of all things is merely the inhale before another breath, that even death, cosmic or human, is not a wall, but a doorway. For billions of years, we've feared the darkness at the end of time. We've imagined the stars burning out, the galaxies drifting apart into cold silence. But what if that silence isn't decay? What if it's rest, the still pause between two heartbeats of eternity? Consider the stars, each one a furnace of creation, forging elements in its core, only to scatter them across the cosmos when it dies. Those remnants form new stars, new worlds, new lives. You and I are made of those ashes, atoms once forged in the death throes of ancient suns. So even within us, the pattern continues. We are the proof that nothing truly ends. We are the universe, remembering itself. Cyclic cosmology is not just physics, it's a meditation. It tells us that loss and renewal are one, that every collapse contains a seed, and that creation's true miracle is not that it happens once, but that it never stops happening. Lahin Hindus called it samsara, the wheel of existence, forever turning. The Egyptians told of Ra, who dies each night only to rise again at dawn. Even the galaxies seem to obey this rhythm, as if the cosmos itself has always known. The secret to eternity is to never stop becoming. And if the universe can be reborn endlessly, why not consciousness? Why not the spark that watches, questions, dreams? Perhaps awareness, too, cycles through realities, awakening again and again in new forms, each time wearing a different name, each time whispering the same ancient question. What am I? In this view, even oblivion is sacred. The Big Crunch is not the enemy of the Big Bang. It's its twin. Collapse is the way home, and expansion the way back out again. The universe does not end in despair. It ends in grace. A return to the silence that knows how to sing. Maybe eternity isn't a line that stretches forever. Maybe it's a rhythm that never breaks. A heartbeat without beginning. A song without end. Each universe a note. Each life a chord. And together, they compose the music of being. And when that music falls silent, it's only so the next verse can begin. The light fades not because it dies, but because it's preparing to shine again. So, in the end, there is no end. Only patterns shifting, energy changing masks, existence folding and unfolding forever. Effortlessly, the cosmos breathes once more. And in its stillness, it whispers the truth that erases every fear of finality. Nothing truly ends. It only changes its rhythm. We have journeyed across the vastness of creation, through beginnings that weren't beginnings, through time that wasn't time, through nothing that was never truly empty. And now, as the stars fade into silence, there is only one place left to go. Inward. The cosmos has stretched itself into galaxies, atoms, and laws. But at the heart of it all, there remains a single, unanswerable question. Who is watching? It's tempting to think the universe exists independent of us, a grand stage on which we happen to appear, fleeting and small, but quantum mechanics suggests something stranger. It tells us that the act of observation changes what is observed, that particles do not settle into a single state until they are seen. Reality, it seems, waits for awareness to arrive. When no one looks, an electron is a cloud of possibilities, a wave of maybes. But when we look, the wave collapses into certainty. It becomes real. The universe, then, might not simply be. It might be becoming through the act of perception itself. Every observation, every thought, every flicker of awareness could be another brushstroke painting the cosmos into existence. So where does this awareness come from? If consciousness arises from the universe, and the universe requires consciousness to exist, then perhaps they are not two things at all, but one infinite loop, endlessly reflecting itself, the cosmos dreaming of itself through us. We are not separate observers, we are apertures, through which the universe sees its own face. Our thoughts are the echoes of starlight thinking, our minds are made of atoms forged in dying suns, yet those same atoms now contemplate the stars that birthed them. It's the grandest symmetry imaginable, the observer and the observed merging into one. Maybe this is what the mystics meant all along, that awareness is the ground of all being, that before there was light, before there was time, there was the capacity to know, and from that knowing, reality unfolded, not as something happening to us, but as something happening through us. When a tree falls in an unobserved forest, does it make a sound? The physicist smiles and says, the question itself creates the sound. For what is sound but vibration perceived? What is existence but possibility witnessed? Perhaps consciousness is not an accidental byproduct of the universe. Perhaps it is its purpose. Matter learns to think, so that thought can learn it is matter. Through life, the cosmos becomes aware of the miracle of its own presence. When we stare into the night sky, we are not gazing into the distance. We are looking into a mirror stretched across space and time. Every photon that touches our eyes is ancient, older than our species, older than our world, and yet it finds its meaning only when it meets our awareness. Without the observer, the light would have no story to tell. So what is consciousness, truly? Is it an emergent property of matter, or the field from which matter itself emerges? Does the brain produce awareness, or is the brain simply an instrument tuning into it? Like a radio picking up an infinite broadcast. Across traditions and theories, the idea repeats like a heartbeat. We are the universe, knowing itself. From the Vedic texts to quantum field equations, the insight glows beneath the language. That the line between out there and in here is an illusion of perspective. And maybe, just maybe, the Big Bang itself was not the birth of matter, but the first act of awareness, the moment the infinite recognized its own potential. A thought so vast, it became reality. A realization so complete, it became time. The philosopher might say, consciousness is the mirror in which the infinite sees itself reflected. And when it looks deeply enough, it finds no separation between seer and seen, only the endless shimmer of being aware. Look around you, the stars, the wind, the pulse in your wrist, the silence between heartbeats. All of it is the same awareness, wearing different forms, speaking in different tongues. You are not in the universe. The universe is in you, every neuron that fires, every dream that blooms, every question you whisper to the stars, is the cosmos exploring its own depths. Consciousness does not reside in a skull. It spills out, boundless, infinite, like the very space it seeks to understand. And when you close your eyes, when thoughts fall silent and identity dissolves, you find it. That same stillness we began with. The silence before creation. The nothing that was never nothing at all. Perhaps this is the full circle. Not the universe returning to the void, but the void realizing it never left. The observer and the observed, the dreamer and the dream, all reflections in the same eternal mirror. The galaxies swirl. The atoms hum. Awareness watches endlessly. And in that watching, reality continues to unfold, moment by moment, illusion by illusion, forever returning to the truth. The universe is not something we witness. It is something we are, a cosmic mind awakening again and again, in every eye that opens, in every heart that wonders. It was never about beginnings or endings. It was always about seeing, the act that turns nothing into everything, the moment that never stops happening. And so, the journey ends where it began, in awareness itself. No start, no end, only the universe, watching itself unfold. Before light, before time, before the idea of a beginning ever existed, there was silence. Not empty, but full. Full of everything it would one day become. We have traveled through the illusion of creation, through the fabric of time, through the shimmer of matter, through the awareness that binds them all. And now we return here, to the stillness that started it all. Only to realize it was never a start at all. The question that built our journey, how did it all begin, dissolves softly in the quiet. Maybe beginnings are inventions of human longing. Maybe the universe never needed one, because it never needed an end. The stars expand, collapse, and rise again. Worlds are born, die, and are born once more. Even silence has a rhythm. Even nothing hums. Perhaps eternity was never a line stretching forever, but a single point, endlessly aware of itself. Every thought, every particle, every heartbeat just ripples across its infinite surface. The universe was not created once. It is being created always. And somewhere within that ceaseless unfolding, you exist, a fleeting echo of infinity that knows it is alive. You, too, are part of the question the cosmos asks itself. And your wonder, your looking, your listening, is how it answers. So as the light fades and the silence returns, remember this: the end is the beginning, remembering its shape. The first sound is the last breath repeated in reverse. There was no origin, only awareness, dressed for a moment in the form of a universe. And perhaps that's all it ever was, and all it will ever be. The universe, watching itself unfold.